I think we'll have another meeting. He really wrote a beautiful 3-page, right from top to bottom, a really beautiful letter. And maybe I'll release the results of the letter.
President Trump touting his relationship with North Korea's Kim Jong Un there, saying the two could have another meeting to discuss denuclearization, even as North Korea continues to test ballistic missiles. Let's bring in Johnny Joey Jones, former Marine Corps bomb technician and Fox News contributor. Always great to see you. What do you make of the president talking about, he was boasting about this beautiful letter from Kim Jong Un. He received it yesterday. He called the 3-page letter very positive. He also said, maybe I'll release the results of the letter. What kind of business do you think the president is referring to?
Well, I think when President Trump stands at the pulpit and talks about these letters and this communication, and he uses words like beautiful, I think what American people have to understand is he's talking directly to Kim Jong Un. He's not telling the American people what a great person Kim Jong Un is. He's doing diplomacy through Twitter and microphone. And I know that a lot of people are concerned by that, and for obvious reasons, but it's my belief that he chooses these words specifically because he knows they'll be translated and come across a certain way, and it's a part of his diplomacy. With that being said, how many meetings are we going to get with the same rhetoric in place but no real meaningful change? I think that him coming out and saying he's not a fan of these exercises, but he understands their importance, that's the type of talking out of both sides of your mouth that is diplomacy. I think these exercises are very important. I think our military needs them. Sometimes that's the only communication we have with our allies that we might need for any number of reasons, to include China or Iran in that region. Yeah. And so I think that his rhetoric and his diplomacy line up in front of a microphone sometimes, and I think sometimes they're saying two different things. And in this case, I don't think he's calling Kim Jong Un beautiful. I think he's saying this type of dialogue and the fact that he's addressing concerns with one another is a good thing, and I agree with that.
I think it's important to highlight the fact that there is dialogue in the first place. The video that we just showed there was of the president being the first U.S. president ever to step foot into North Korea. So certainly the relationship between these two is unlike any that we've ever seen in any White House administration. But what could that potentially mean for denuclearization talks, considering they are stalled?
Well, if you ask someone to help you out and you tell them you'll give them $100, you can either hand them the $100 before they do it, hand them the $100 after they do it, or give them $50 now and get $50 after they're done, right? And so those are three ways to negotiate. And I think President Trump understands it's much safer and much more likely you give them $50 now, they do it, and then you give them $50 more. So what they're looking for are these points of leverage. Is it economic sanctions, which are obviously having a mass effect? Is it making sure China or Russia or some half ally, half foe isn't helping them out to relieve those sanctions? Is it looking at things like relations with South Korea? What is that $100? What are the $50 now and $50 later? And then what do we need in return? I think that it's obvious that North Korea believes, and this regime believes, having nuclear weapons is their only security for stability. So how do we show that regime change isn't the effect of denuclearization? And I'm not sure. I don't know that. I don't sit in the White House, and I don't have that answer. But I think we can look at these points of dialogue and start to understand what direction we're moving. And it seems like we're moving in the right direction. If you step on the head of a snake, it's going to strike back before it dies. So when Kim Jong Un sends up missiles into the air, that's just as much a show of acting out because he's feeling the pressure as defiance.
Okay. Speaking of rogue regimes and economic sanctions, I want to turn to Iran real quick. They're up to the same old dirty tricks again. This time they're using GPS jammers, according to officials, pretending to be American warships to trick vessels into traveling through Iranian waters and then seizing them. How does the U.S. react this time?
Well, this is a tough one. I used to work in signal in the Marine Corps. When you jam something, essentially you send out a signal at the same frequency but much closer so it overrides the other signal. So there's some technical answers here, right? Can you encrypt? Can you use different forms of communication? Can you override this jamming? Possibly. But the greater scale here is Iran is, actively acting against merchant vessels and U.S. and allied interests in the region. And they're using this guise, if they shoot down our drone, they say, well, it was over our airspace. If they seize a ship, they say, well, it was in our waters. And so they're using international law against itself here, and they're obviously acting out. I don't know what the answer is, but I can tell you that the U.S. will not stand by and say, you get to rewrite the rules. We deal with this with China. We deal with this with other countries. Yeah. But at the end of the day, these are merchant ships. These are civilian ships that we're going to secure and escort if we have to.
Let's hope our European allies join the fight and join the United States in a maritime coalition to protect the waters in the Persian Gulf. Thank you so much, Johnny Joey Jones. Always great to see you. I love that name.
Thank you.